It's time for Get The Lax Scoop, a podcast bringing you all the people and stuff you should know in the game of lacrosse. We take lax seriously, but ourselves, not so much. Join hosts Big Dog and Jaybird and the biggest names in the game. Brought to you by J McMahon Lacrosse. That's JML, skills, mindset, and lax IQ training.
Ron Douglas, the Big Dog, was a collegiate football and lacrosse player at Brown. He was also an assistant lacrosse coach and the executive director of the Sports Foundation.
And Jay McMahon, the Jaybird, a three-time All-American midfielder at Brown. He was a captain of the U.S. Junior National Team and is the founder of JML. And joining us in the studio, Steve Grisalfi, whose collegiate lacrosse career statistics equals 1 goal against Dartmouth. Everyone, welcome to Season 2 of Get The Lax Scoop. It's exciting to be back for round 2. We had a hell of a lot of fun in Season 1, and Jay, we certainly delivered on bringing our guests the biggest names of the game, and we're not going to disappoint as we start off Season 2 with our first return guest, because we thought Episode 1 started so well. We thought we'd bring him back, and we'll tell our guests about that in a minute. Jay, it's hard to believe lacrosse is on the way because I'm freezing my ass off up here in Rhode Island right now.
Awfully cold up in Rhode Island.
13 degrees. Welcome to lacrosse season, baby.
That's right. They're out there practicing all through New England, all through the country. Super exciting. And exciting for us. I can't believe we made it through that first season, Ron. Here we are for Season 2.
Somehow, Jay, we haven't been banned on the internet at all. They've let us continue. So
right. We've managed to get you on schedule, which is really quite an accomplishment for myself.
Here we go.
Anyway,
I see somehow Jay found another member of a U19 team so he can talk about his accolades. It's amazing how that happened.
Don't spoil it for our guests.
Our guests might think that that's about him, but it's really not. It's so Jay can bring up his experience 68 years ago on the U19 team. But
come on, Ron.
I just thought we'd start off again, set the tone. Jay, why don't we get us started? It's all about our guests, so why don't you get our intro started?
Right, Ron, please, just stop. Our first guest is a native of Port Jefferson Station, New York, on Long Island, and hailed from Comsqua High School, where he led his team to a New York State championship in 1998, and later helped teams capture gold medals at both the Empire State Games and the U19 Team USA at the World Championships in 1999. He went on to Duke University and graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology. He was named a USILA Scholar All-American and named only one of 4 ACC student athletes in the conference-wide to receive the Weaver James Corrigan Honorary Award, which recognized student athletes for outstanding athletic and academic achievement. He enjoyed an illustrious playing career at Duke from 2000 to 2003, where he was twice team captain and a Tewaaraton Award finalist. He was a 3-time All-American and was the 2001 ACC Player of the Year, and in 2002 was the NCAA Outstanding Midfielder of the Year award winner for all of D1 lacrosse. After his collegiate playing career, he was selected 2nd overall by the Rochester Rattlers in the 2003 MLL draft. He went on to play professionally for 7 seasons and was a 2-time All-Star, including in 2006 when he was the All-Star Games MVP. He represented the United States at the World Championships on 4 different occasions, including as an assistant coach in 2014. As a midfielder, he helped the U.S. win gold in 2002 and 2010 and silver in 2006. He served as Team USA's captain in 2010. After graduation, he became an assistant coach and offensive coordinator at Stony Brook in 2004, where he conducted the nation's top man-up unit. Under head coach Lars Tiffany, he and the Seawolves finished the season with a 10-6 overall record. Next, he was an assistant coach at his alma mater Duke from 2005 to 2007. In 2005 and 2007, he helped the Blue Devils reach the NCAA championship game, which marked the program's only 2 national championship game appearances in program history at that time. At the tender age of 26 years old, for the 2008 season, he became the head men's lacrosse coach at Lehigh, where over 15 seasons he compiled 136 career victories and a 56.7 win percentage. Both are program bests. He steered the Mountain Hawks to Patriot League regular season and tournament titles in 2012, 2013, and 2021. During his tenure at Lehigh, The Mountain Hawks reached the Patriot League championship game 6 times and are the only team to qualify for the Patriot League tournament in the last 10 consecutive years. Now, that is outstanding. In 2018, he was inducted into the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to our first guest, a.k.a. Captain America, the one, the only, Coach Kevin Cassese.
Wow.
Coach
Thanks, guys.
Cassese.
Appreciate
Welcome.
that. Thank you. I'm going to hire you as my agent. Send you guys out.
That was, I mean, what an amazing career. Can't wait to get into it.
Pretty damn impressive, Coach Cassese.
God.
I just want to come back to who named your high school. Comswag,
Sorry.
on Long Island.
Comswag High School.
Comswag. It's Native American, Ron. Come
Yeah,
on,
sorry.
get with it.
Ron, let's be a little more sensitive to the Aboriginal roots of this nation, okay? The
Jay,
native peoples.
We have not
Lars-
announced our next guest, but
yeah, well, that's okay.
it's out of
'cause we're-
turn.
Ladies and gentlemen, the person who just jumped in there, assaulting me, the current head men's lacrosse coach at the University of Virginia. And friends, he is our first returning guest. He and Coach Dom Stargy did a heck of a job, and really meaningful for Jay and I to have them be our first guest. But because he's already been in the show and because he's our friend and teammate, there's no way in hell we're going to read through that kind of introduction for Lars again. I mean,
No
the
way.
last thing we need to do is stoke this guy's ego any more than it already is.
It's just
Having
taken
said
over.
that, he is one of the biggest names in the game today. We have to acknowledge facts are facts, right?
Ugh.
4-time Ivy champ, 2-time ACC and NCAA champ, ACC Coach of the Year, blah, 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 blah,
Yada,
blah,
yada,
blah,
yada,
blah.
yada, yada.
But he has coached the Haudenosaunee Nationals at the World Championships. And I know that's among his most meaningful accomplishments in the game, having grown up next to a reservation. And talking about those Native American roots, Lars, I do know they're very important to you, as they are to the entire game.
Call them the Hodeshonys, if you don't mind.
Haudenosaunee.
Both
National
of
team.
you are
It's-
butchering it. So just quit now, all right?
Okay.
Just
Say
don't
it.
even go there. The Haudenosaunee.
Haudenosaunee.
Ah.
Haudenosaunee, yeah.
Well, welcome to Coach Lars Tiffany, Doug, if
Yes.
you wouldn't mind stating the phrase. Thank you.
I'll just introduce myself. Well, thank you for having me on a second time. It was so unfulfilling and unsatisfying the first time. You had to give me a second chance. So
You
it's
were
more of what this is.
you were
opportunity.
overstaged by Dom Starja, perhaps.
Yes.
I see that happening again today by Coach Cassese. Much more accomplished than I am.
All right. In all seriousness, Lars, great to have you here. We're psyched
Absolutely.
to get another season of Get The Lax Scoop going, and we're really excited to get another season of college lacrosse underway. So look forward to talking to both of you. Jay, get us going
Ron.
here. Oh, actually,
I'd like to, but Ron, you're first. If
yeah,
you
I am,
please
Jay. I'm really
Follow the script that I worked so
I'm
hard
in,
on.
I'm in real
Thank you.
preseason form here, Jay.
Get with it.
Oh my gosh. All right, Kevin. We always like to start, a lot of why we started this podcast, in all seriousness, is because some of the most meaningful relationships we have in our lives came through the game of lacrosse. And we always like to start. It's been really interesting learning from some of the people who have gone on to all the accolades that you have, just talking about where it started. Like, what are your earliest memories of the game, and where did you develop the passion, and who were maybe some of the people in your youngest days playing that really influenced you?
Yeah, so it's really an interesting story because I grew up in a football family. My dad was a high school football coach at Comswag High School. Lacrosse wasn't really something that was in the picture until a little bit later in my life. And I was a multi-sport athlete, but it was mainly football, basketball, and baseball. So oddly enough, our baseball team was excellent, and we played multiple championships, Long Island championships. We went up to Cooperstown and played in a New York State championship. And you look at the roster of that team that we had, right around fourth grade, the entire baseball team went over to play lacrosse and give that a try. And that was the team that eventually became the New York State champions. But we all played baseball to begin with. So, interesting roots there. Lacrosse was something that it was prevalent in our area, but not necessarily in Port Jeff Station or in the Comswag area. Right next door was Ward Melville, and then just a little bit further away was Sage. So, excuse me, the lacrosse just in our town was not really something that was existent until right around my fourth grade year when we were able to start doing that. So my introduction to lacrosse came, by way of going over into the Three Village district, which was Ward Melville, and getting introduced to lacrosse that way. And there were two names over there that were leading the charge. One was John Banks, who had several sons, but Liam Banks was my age and someone that we played baseball together. And I remember Liam and his dad John coming over and saying, "Hey, why don't you come over and try this new sport out over here?" And I remember going over to the Stony Brook school and trying a practice there. I didn't have any equipment. I didn't have a stick. Coach Banks gave me one of his to use on that day. And then the other man who was over there was John Kenny, and he was the coach at the Stony Brook school at the time. And his sons, Derek and Nathan in particular, they went on to play at UVA. Those were a few other names and people that were over there. So that was my first real experience with a lacrosse practice and playing the game. I fell in love with it. It was so fun, in large part because I was around my friends having a lot of fun doing it. And then also because of those coaches, those men, and how much fun they brought to the game, and, fast paced, and just kind of reminded me of a lot of the other sports that I played that were just very similar. Football, basketball, very fast paced, up and down. Had roots playing soccer as a younger kid, and it just made sense to me to be able to do that. And then eventually we were able to have enough kids with interest in our town to be able to form a team that went and played with the Three Village. I think Three Village they might have 5 different teams at the youth level. And, then we entered a team and certainly took our lumps doing it. But that was the first time that we had a team, and we were able to play with the kids in our town. But that was my first introduction to the game. And then first stick that I ever got was given to me by a high school quarterback from my dad at the time, a guy named Greg Nealon, who was a multi-sport athlete and a superstar, someone I really looked up to, and quarterback for the football team, also a midfielder and a face-off guy for the lacrosse team. And after one of the football practices, I saw him, with a stick, and he taught me how to face off, taught me how to play the game, and, someone I was able to follow and track and look up to. He went on to play at Maryland. He won a national championship at Maryland in lacrosse. Awesome. And so those are just some of the stories of how I came to the game.
Great.
Now, Jay, hold on. Before you continue, I'd just like to say, for those of our listeners who aren't watching on YouTube, it's been nice to see Coach Tiffany's respect for his new assistant, basically walking around the room doing chores, like cleaning up the room while Coach Cassese is giving his first answer. I mean, Lars, it would be lovely if you could engage with us a little here.
He's heard all this a million times already. He can recite it by heart.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Ron, if you remember earlier, my hand was slapped for sort of interjecting. So I thought I was just giving some people some space while I
know what to do.
You see the wood fire? I got the wood stove going back there, right?
Oh my God!
Look at that.
I mean,
nice.
It might get below 25.
What is Lars doing an exercise routine while Coach Cassese is answering? I mean, what in God's name?
Never a wasted moment
here. Anyway, let's try to keep everybody in preseason form. Let's right. Jay, go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you, Ron. And so Coach Tiffany here, we do know your origin story, which was awesome. And if people have not heard that first episode we had with Coach Starja and Coach Tiffany, I highly recommend going back and listening to that, because it involved going to the Onondaga reservation, and it was really cool. But since we already know that, Coach Tiffany, we're going to ask Kevin another question, if that's okay with you. Is that all right? You can get back to the wood stove.
Much of a choice. Doesn't sound like I have much of a choice on this. You go right ahead.
You might go back and just start holding planks back there in between. So, well, Kevin, you hail from, again, the biggest lacrosse hotbed per square mile in the nation. That, of course, being Long Island. Oh. That would be Long Island, Ron. This is where all the great players come from.
That was a little further north of Long Island, upstate there.
Nice try. Too much mileage. And as you were mentioning, Comsqua High School there, and you guys get it together and managed to win a New York State title. So what was that like? As you said, kind of in the shadow of Ward Melville, and you guys come into your own as you're in high school.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience, especially considering the history there, and how really we came late to the party on the lacrosse scene. And So, it was a little bit of a different environment, I would say, just because, like I said, the Sachems and the Ward Melvilles of the world, they were the bigger schools. So we were in the smaller school division. And so our biggest competition was the Stony Brook school, a private school. And, we would play them every single year in the Suffolk County Championship. And until we got to high school, we struggled to beat those guys. Essentially, it was the kids that were in the Ward Melville School District that chose to go to private school. So, their backgrounds in lacrosse, probably 5-6 years longer than we were playing. So it was a big hurdle to be able to get past them just in the Suffolk County landscape, and then to be able to move past and win a state championship. And so it's like, all right, once you get past Stony Brook, now who are you staring in the face? Well, you're staring someone from Nassau County who's really good. And for us, that happened to be Garden City.
Ooh.
And Garden City was exactly now. And before it was Garden City, the year before, my freshman year, it was Bethpage. And these teams were just loaded with All-Americans, potential future All-Americans at the college level. And the Bethpage team had guys like AJ Hogan on it, and Chris Searcy and countless others. And then Garden City, BJ Prager and Doug Staub and others. And
right, nice.
So we took our lumps my freshman and sophomore year, and we lost in the Long Island Championship, but then eventually got over the hurdle my junior year and were able to beat Garden City. So we figured we made it that far, we might as well keep it going. And we were able to win a couple more games after that. We beat John Jay, also a powerhouse.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually, we're able to beat Canton in the state championship and win that. It was a great experience, and
that's awesome.
I learned a lot.
Was it that year? Was it up in upstate, or was it on Hofstra? Nice.
Yeah, it was at Hofstra, which made it even more special.
Right. That's great. Beautiful.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. We're so glad to be back, and we're so glad you're joining us for Season 2 of the Get The Lax Scoop podcast. Due to popular demand, we have put together a Patreon page for the show. This will allow those interested in supporting our efforts to do just that, and to get exclusive access to unedited interviews, big discounts on JML online courses, and merchandise from our new online store, and big additions to the JML course catalog. Now we have a defenseman's course taught by none other than UVA head coach Lars Tiffany, and a goalie course taught by former two-time All-American and UVA assistant coach Kip Turner. You can check out our Patreon page with the link that is listed in the description, as well as taking a look at the online store, again with the link listed in the description. We're super excited to get back to our interview, and you will find that interview in progress.
All right,
Well,
Ron,
Kevin,
I guess you can get Coach Tiffany in. Well, go ahead. What?
Well, first of all, Kevin, I love that your story included a win over Garden City. That's outstanding. Lars, good morning, Coach.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on, Ron.
Yeah, Lars, we're happy to have you. And Lars, I thought we were doing your program a service. Having your new assistant coach will be a key to your program and a key to recruiting, giving him a little time to share his story with our listeners. It's all about supporting your program.
Thank you. And associate head coach, actually, not just assistant.
Exactly. Don't say
associate head coach. There you go, Lars.
Get it
like
straight, Ron.
But Lars, going back to the roots of playing careers, last time we had you on and we were talking with Dom, we didn't spend a lot of time on your high school career. And so talk about Lafayette outside of Syracuse and what your high school career was like.
That might have been intentional why we didn't talk about my high school career, especially paling in comparison to Coach Cassese that we just heard from. But I'll give it a little bit. Lafayette is a town just south of the Syracuse, tangent to the Onondaga Nation, one of the 6 tribes of the Haudenosaunee, aka used to be known as the Iroquois. A town, in terms of athletics, not very good at football and basketball and baseball once in a while. But when it came to lacrosse, we had this incredible history because when there was no youth lacrosse programs, those existed with Lafayette because on the Onondaga Nation, box lacrosse was being played by young boys. And so they had sticks in their hands when they were 3, 4, 5 years old. Whereas most of the country, most of the rest of the lacrosse world, you weren't picking up a stick until maybe 6th or 7th grade 50 years ago, if even that. As we learned from Tom Starza, who didn't even pick up a lacrosse stick till he got to Brown. And so it's a sport that is just a part of the fabric, a part of of the community and entrenched and ingrained as much as possible. The game of lacrosse was actually introduced to Lafayette by a man named Ket Weist, who's still alive today, just about 90 years old. And one of the reasons he brought it to Lafayette was there was some really tough relationships and tension happening between the native young men who were at Lafayette High School and the non-native, the white men. And they thought, hey, we've heard some examples in the past. This is obviously a different era where you got racial desegregation happening, where the examples of sport, where you bring the two together, you bring the races together through sport, that's where things sort of fall off, right? That's where in the locker room can bind, because now you have a mission, regardless of your skin color or your beliefs in religion. So that was one of the main reasons Ket Weist brought the game of lacrosse to Lafayette at the varsity level. It's been played box lacrosse and all that. And so
that's cool.
I'm really lucky, 25 years later, I come along and I jump into this tradition. I'll give you one little story. My sophomore year in high school, it's the very first game of the year. And, we're heading to Homer High School, the big game, Lafayette Homer. I'm sure it was on ESPN later, but it's the coach comes to the back of the bus, Dick During, with Jerry Brenneberg. Hey, Lars, you got to start. So-and-so is not feeling well. And, you're going to be the starter. And I am scared to death at this point. And luckily, Jerome Lazor wins a bunch of faceoffs. The ball doesn't come to the defensive end of the field till we're up 4-0. And,
nice.
Again, being a part of that type of tradition, history of great lacrosse at Lafayette. But Ron, there was a play that happened there that never happened again. And so there was a midline scramble for a ground ball. And somehow, some way, I come up towards the midline, I pick up this ball, and there's no one left. There's no one between me and the goal. And the goal is like 35 yards away. I don't know where the attackmen were. It's like a dream. Like there's nothing there. And
nice.
The sea is parting for you.
Where did all the chess pieces? Everyone fell apart. I run down there, and Ron, I throw that ball at least 10 yards over the top of the goal. Oof. Talk about poise. And I'm not sure if they gave it to the other team, the goalie, who was the only one down there, if they gave him the ball because he was closest or because they thought I passed the ball off the end line. But I can remember not being able to sleep that night, and finally being like, all right, I'll get another chance. And I finally fell asleep like 2 or 3 in the morning. I never got that other chance, but it was good life and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much my high school playing career.
I think it's interesting because you guys are in the middle of this. I know Jay and I, when we talk about our high school careers, I can see it when you two are at have played and coached the highest levels of the game. And you both, you get that smile on your face and you get animated when you talk about those special moments playing on a high school team. And I just think it's a message to today's kids who feel so much pressure on the club side. It is such a special thing to play for your high school and your town. And so I hope that kind of tradition continues to get sustained in the game with all the emphasis on the club teams and the summer leagues.
Right. No doubt. Nothing like playing for the hometown.
All right, Ron, so
to continue, please.
Yes, I would, Jay. Thank you. So, Kevin, after high school, like my co-host Jay, you play on the USA U19 team. So, that had to be just another amazing experience, kind of dream come true. So, tell us how that came to be and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah, it was another amazing experience. And I think back to that experience, it was, really the first time leaving the country for me. That was in Australia. Just the experience of, you always hear these words that lacrosse can take you to the places you've never been before. And it literally did that. We were in Adelaide, Australia, and
that's awesome.
Just the experience, the culture that you get from doing that. And then from the lacrosse standpoint, it was the highest level of lacrosse I had ever played at. And playing for the legends of the game at the high school level, Joe Cuso was the high school coach at Ward Melville. He was the head coach of that team. The assistant coaches were Bob Shriver, Chuck Appel, and
Bobby Shriver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Jake Reed. So you got some experience being coached by those guys, and got a chance to play. At the time, most of the guys were just graduating high school, but there was one player who was already finishing up his freshman year in college, and that was Connor Gill. So
Oh,
that was
yeah.
my first experience playing with someone that was that freaking good.
Right. He was
It
awesome,
was
huh?
it was incredible
The
how good that
tackman
guy
for
was.
UVA, right?
Yeah,
He was a
exactly.
great player.
And then didn't have a lot of fun playing against him for the next 3 years, but that one summer we got a chance to play together, and some of those guys that I grew up with, I had a chance to play on that team with. Liam Banks was one of those guys. So,
Wow.
Oh,
that
yeah.
relationship, continued, and it was just an incredible experience. I also had the opportunity when we played Canada to play against two of my future teammates, Taylor Ray, who's now the head coach at St. Joe's, and his brother Devin. And I remember meeting those guys, and that we all knew that we were going to be teammates in a few months when we showed up at Duke University. But I'll always remember that didn't matter. They walked by me, and might as well just hit me in the shoulder on the way back.
Right.
Devin was the face-off guy for Canada,
Oh,
and
wow.
Taylor was on the first wing when we played in the round robin. And all I remember is being down, face down in the dirt, a knee to the back of the head from Taylor, and a couple of rabid punches from Devin. And they were going to be teammates in a couple months, but not on that day. So
That's
it
hilarious.
was eye-opening in every which way.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, those Canucks were tough. We played in Melbourne, but we did visit Adelaide, and just an awesome trip. Good stuff. So now, Kevin, we'll get in a little bit to your Duke experience. As we mentioned, three-time All-American there on some really talented teams, and 3 out of 4 years, from what I saw, you were really knocking on the door in that quarterfinal round in the NCAA, and then you had won two ACC tournaments at that time, and then so you're a leader on this up-and-coming program, and then at Duke, and then you go back and coach at Duke, and there you are, an assistant, and it's the first year the team gets the national championship in 2005, and then 2006 happens, and the season gets canceled in 2006. And if people want to look into that, we're not going to really get into that here. There's a great 30 for 30 on ESPN on that, so you can check that out. But then you're still with the staff in 2007, and you're coaching at Duke, now under head coach John Danowski, and you guys are the number one seed. You have a great regular season, at number one seed in the NCAA tournament, and then you guys get to the finals again. And looking at the stats, there was over 100,000 people that witnessed that Final Four, and over 48,000 people at the championship game. So what a roller coaster ride that must.
Is
have
there
just
a
been.
question coming sometime in our
I'm
future?
setting the stage.
All
That's
right,
what
sorry,
we do
sorry, excuse me.
in journalism.
Sorry.
Get with it. So anyway, as a follow-up, I would imagine all those experiences had to leave a mark, and then you go forward the very next year to be a head coach. So just, I don't know what you can tell us about that. I mean, holy cow, that's an incredible series of years, right? I mean, holy cow.
Yeah. The experience playing at Duke was life-changing for me, and one of the biggest reason was Mike Pressler, and being recruited by Coach Pressler, and then having the opportunity to play for him and be a two-time captain for him. And I learned so much just about how to lead. I always kind of look at Coach Pressler and his coaching style, and say that he was the ultimate CEO, just the way that he ran his program, and incredibly organized, and really focused in on leading men and helping them to become leaders of each other. So I learned a ton playing for him. I also had the opportunity just to get an inside look at going back and coaching for him,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously spending time in becoming a coach myself, and learning what is necessary to run a championship caliber program. And I quickly learned a couple of years after that, when we were at Duke, we were playing from behind a little bit. We didn't have the full complement of scholarships when I was playing there. We never had the opportunity to kind of get to the Final Four. We had the opportunity to do it, but we never made it. We made it as far as the quarterfinals twice, but we were doing all that, and Coach Pressler was doing all that with 8 scholarships in the program. So 4.6 short of what everybody else was doing out there. And, when you're a player, you have no idea. You don't know that that's a thing. You just look around and say, hey, we're on a level playing field with everybody else out there. And so when you look at the success that Coach Pressler had in his time at Duke, and then you factor things like that in and some of the challenges that he was dealing with there, it's pretty remarkable what he was able to do. So I was
Right.
able to get a newfound respect for the way that he operated and how much success he had and how he led us on the verge of a Final Four, very much shorthanded compared to a lot of other teams. So that was
Right.
impressive. And then the experience of coming back and coaching for him, that was really, really special. And obviously we went through some tough times together. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that with him and kind of learn from him through all those tough times, through the Duke lacrosse scandal. And obviously it was very, very difficult times, but the way I always look at it is it's something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy to have to go through, because it was really, really tough and really hard. But I'm grateful that I was there during that time, because I felt like, as an alum and someone who was still connected to the players, those seniors that were on that team, they were freshmen when I was a senior. So
Wow.
a very special bond with those group of guys, and obviously the alumni and young alums, and a lot of connections there. So I'd like to think that it was helpful that I was there to help bridge the gap between Coach Pressler and Coach Danowski. And that 2007 year was a wild year.
Yeah.
Having John Danowski come in and going through a season where there were trials going on simultaneously, and there was a lot there. And obviously to make it to the Final Four and be in the championship game, there was a lot of interest around our team and a lot of interest around college lacrosse. And I think that's a big part of the reason why you saw such great crowds. And fortunately, we came up a goal short, but the life lessons that were learned through all that, those men still talk to them today, and they're doing amazing things. And very proud of all of them, and happy for having the opportunity to be with them. And if you kind of sit back and look at it, sandwiched in all of that, my first year in coaching was with Lars. So had the opportunity to play with Coach Pressler, or play for Coach Pressler, coach with Lars in my first year as a coach, go back and coach with Coach Pressler, and then in the next year coach with John Danowski.
Right.
I had, in 3 short years of coaching, was around 3 legends of the game. So
It's amazing.
you wonder, hey, and also, by the way, went through one of the biggest crises in
Right.
in college athletics history. So yeah, I was ready. I felt ready. As
Right.
a
So
36-year-old
26,
to be
you
a
were
head
really
coach.
36. You like
exactly.
had 10 years in 1 year, that
Yeah.
2006 year.
What else could I say? So it was, I learned a lot. I learned a ton, thanks to those great men, and I felt like I was ready to be a head coach.
That is cool. Now, what was Coach Danowski like in comparison, say, to Coach Pressler? To hear the answer to that intriguing question, please tune in next week as we continue with our series. Until we meet again, here's to hoping you find the twine. We're signing off here at the Get the Lax Scoop. Thanks again so much. We will see you the next time.